Welcome to the Economic Development Administration CARES Act Recovery Assistance webinar. If you have received an invitation to apply for non-competitive awards, you might also want to watch the webinar specifically focused on non-competitive funding in addition to this webinar. During this presentation, we'll cover a general overview of the CARES Act and the addendum to the NOFO, as well as application procedures, resources that will be helpful for you, and we'll have time for FAQs at the end. EDA's mission is to lead the federal economic development agenda by promoting innovation and competitiveness, preparing American regions for growth and success in the worldwide economy. EDA makes grants to eligible applicants designed to leverage existing regional assets to support implementation of economic development strategies that make it easier for businesses to start and grow. EDA also leads the integration of economic development resources from all sources, including federal, state, local, and philanthropic, to achieve better outcomes for communities across America. EDA is organized into 6 regions. This map shows the regions by state. When you're engaging with EDA, you should do so through your appropriate regional office. You can learn more about this at eda.gov/contact.
So under the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, EDA was appropriated $1.5 billion in additional Economic Adjustment Assistance Program funds to assist communities impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. After taking account of implementation and oversight costs, EDA anticipates awarding the vast majority of that, roughly $1.467 billion, in grants to assist communities to respond to and recover from the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. The supplemental funds are available for a limited period of time and must be awarded by EDA no later than September 30th, 2022. That's a little different for EDA. Normally, EDA funds don't have a limit on them, but given the urgent and unusual circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic, these funds must be awarded by September 30th, 2022. And in fact, EDA's goal is to award the vast majority of these funds well before that date. So EDA is making the majority of the CARES Act funds available through an addendum to the fiscal year 2020 Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Notice of Funding Opportunity. So there was already a fiscal year 2020 Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Notice of Funding Opportunity, and the CARES Act funds will come in an addendum to that Notice of Funding Opportunity. You can find the NOFO by searching at grants.gov, by searching for the opportunity number, PWEA 2020. That's on your slide, PWEAA 2020, PWEA 2020. And the CARES Act Recovery Assistance Addendum is at the bottom of that NOFO at pages 46 through 50. Those are the last 4 or 5 pages of the NOFO. So EDA will award all of its CARES Act funding through EDA's Economic Adjustment Assistance Program, and that's EDA's most flexible program. Examples of projects that EDA may fund through the CARES Act include economic recovery planning and technical strategies to address the impacts of a pandemic, preparation of resiliency plans to respond to future pandemics, entrepreneurial support programs to diversify economies, construction of infrastructure and facilities to support economic recovery, including the deployment of broadband. And that's just a list of examples. There are other projects that would be eligible as well. The key is that they have to tie to the response or resiliency. They have to tie to response and resiliency related to the coronavirus pandemic or future pandemics, or responding to future pandemics.
EDA has determined that the economic injury of the coronavirus is so pervasive and widespread that it constitutes a special need under our parlance. That basically means that we are nationwide eligibility for these funds, and you don't need to demonstrate additional economic distress. Now, if you've worked with us before, you probably are very familiar with economic distress. That's not necessary in this case. We found that the coronavirus impacts are so wide that it's nationwide. In order to apply for the funds, you still need to be an eligible entity under our Economic Adjustment Assistance Authority, and that includes EDA designated district organizations, Indian tribes, states, counties, cities, and other political subdivisions, including special purpose units, institutions of higher education, and public or private nonprofit organizations that are working in coordination with a political subdivision of the state. As normal, individuals and for-profit entities are not eligible for funding.
If I want to form a consortium of eligible organizations, can I do that?
Yes. A consortium of institutions of higher education, state and locals, and nonprofits, those sorts of consortiums are all okay as well. We've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. In order to be eligible for EDA's CARES Act funds, you have to carefully and clearly explain how your proposed project would actually help prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus, or respond to the economic injury that has occurred because of the coronavirus pandemic. If you want to consider economic recovery in general, you must address the direct consequences of the pandemic itself. To the extent that a proposed project responds to needs caused by the coronavirus pandemic is one factor that we'll consider when evaluating applications for funding. So it's important that you make that link and you make it clear. And the stronger the link, the more competitive your application will be. As mentioned earlier, EDA has 6 regional offices, and the funding that EDA has been provided by Congress has been allocated to the 6 regions according to this allocation. There's a small amount of money that is allocated for headquarters, but that is for national technical assistance programs or national innovation competitions. Those are selected at the headquarters level. It is possible that EDA may reallocate these funds if future conditions warrant. The most common question for EDA from potential applicants is how much money can we request and how much will you fund? Under this coronavirus addendum, EDA expects to fund at least 80% and up to 100% of eligible project costs. In order to go above 80%, we're going to consider whether you've exhausted your effective taxing and borrowing capacity, the extent of the economic impact of the coronavirus on your region, and whether the region meets thresholds for elevated need based on your relative economic distress of your region. So that might be unemployment or per capita income that's lower than average. Additionally, EDA may establish a maximum investment rate of 100% for Indian tribes.
EDA is going to be awarding the CARES Act Recovery Assistance grants using 3 separate parallel processes. The first process is a series of competitive awards through EDA's regional offices. This process will resemble EDA's normal process under its Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance and Disaster Recovery programs. Applicants will submit applications to regional offices, which will review those applications and make selections based on the competitive merits of the applications they receive. EDA is also going to make a series of non-competitive awards to certain groups of existing EDA grantees. More information on this process is available in a separate webinar with a link on EDA's website. This process for non-competitive awards is open by invitation only. So if you've not received an invitation to participate in this process, it is likely that you do not qualify. Finally, EDA is going to make a series of awards, as was mentioned, through its headquarters offices. These awards will be for projects of national scope for technical assistance and research. EDA also plans to hold a separate competition for projects focused on innovation and entrepreneurship. More information on that latter program will be forthcoming. The procedures to apply for competitive grants through EDA's regional offices can be found at pages 18 to 28 of the FY 2020 PWIA NOFO. Applicants should apply online through grants.gov by searching for opportunity number PWIA 2020. You'll be able to find all of the required forms to complete your application at grants.gov. If for some reason you're unable to apply through grants.gov, please contact your state's economic development representative. And the names of those representatives can be found at eda.gov/contact. All applications for CARES Act recovery assistance projects must explain how the project will meet EDA's recovery and resilience investment priority. Applicants who wish to do so may also explain how the proposed project will meet any of EDA's other investment priorities. All of those investment priorities can be found at eda.gov/about/investment priorities. Except for a strategy grant, each proposed project must be consistent with the region's current Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS. A CEDS is a comprehensive regional economic development plan that is developed using guidance from EDA and is accepted by EDA. If a region does not have a current CEDS, EDA may be able to accept an alternate regional economic development strategy in its place. For more information on alternate economic development strategies, please contact your state's EDR. A strategy grant is a grant for the purposes of developing, updating, or refining a CEDS. So it's a specialized term. It does not refer to strategy grants in general. Only grants that are related to those purposes constitute strategy grants. Other types of technical assistance or planning grants do require consistency with an approved CEDS.
If an applicant doesn't know if their region is covered by a current comprehensive economic development strategy, how might the applicant find out?
The best way to do that is to contact their state's economic development representative. EDA is prohibited by law from reimbursing recipients for the cost of preparing applications, including the cost of attorneys or consultants' fees. Applicants may retain the services of consultants to help them with their applications. That is allowable. However, those expenses must be borne entirely by the applicant. Please be aware of fraudulent schemes. Unfortunately, we are aware of a number of unscrupulous actors who are advertising their ability to obtain EDA funding for individuals or entities in exchange for the payment of money. To be clear, EDA does not charge processing fees or application fees of any kind. No one from EDA will ever ask you for money, and no one from EDA will ever ask you to provide personal information such as a social security number. If you are approached by anyone claiming to work for EDA who either asks you for money or for personal information, please contact EDA immediately, and you may also want to contact the Department of Commerce, Office of Inspector General at the web address you see below. Also, if anyone contacts you and guarantees to secure you EDA funding in exchange for money, that is also a fraudulent scheme, and you should contact EDA in the Office of the Inspector General. EDA funding is never guaranteed until EDA has processed and approved your application.
EDA's Division of Economic Development Integration and Disaster Recovery, or EDI-DR, equips EDA with additional capacity to support the economic development priorities and objectives of the communities we serve. The team is staffed by a core group at HQ, EDA headquarters in Washington, D.C., as well as by one regional integrator staffed to each of EDA's 6 regional offices. The mission of our team is to provide applicants and communities with an enhanced level of service by striving to meet the following key objectives. 1, increase access. We work to ensure that local and regional applicants can easily identify, apply for, and invest federal economic development resources that can best support their local priorities and objectives. 2, enhance collaboration. We work to facilitate coordination among multiple partners and stakeholders, both federal and non-federal, public and private, to promote multiple strategic investments in support of local priorities that can contribute to sustainable economic growth, especially for distressed communities. And 3, reduce administrative burdens. Working with our federal interagency partners, our team strives to identify and develop guidance and tools that can help applicants navigate and possibly consolidate different administrative requirements that are triggered by each individual award of federal assistance. This slide summarizes a number of different links to various integration tools and resources that are available on the EDA website. You can find all of these by visiting the Economic Development Integration Disaster Recovery homepage, which is simply www.eda.gov/EDI.
EDA has a number of additional resources to support our integration mission, both within EDA from our national technical assistance partners, as well as from other Department of Commerce bureaus and agencies, and from the partner agencies that support EDA's leadership of the economic recovery support function. A number of those resources, including those that feature CARES Act assistance, are featured here on this slide. The first among these is Stats America, available at statsamerica.org, which is a portal for data and information that can help communities prepare their strategic plans for economic recovery. Also noted here is the IEDC RestoreYourEconomy.org webpage, which includes a number of resources and tools for disaster recovery and assistance. The National Association of Development Organizations is also supported by EDA to provide resources for communities to prepare their comprehensive economic development strategies, and has offered a new resource page called the RDO COVID-19 Resource Center, which compiles a number of information about recently available assistance both at the federal, state, and local level that can support recovery from the pandemic. In addition, we wanted to highlight other U.S. Department of Commerce bureaus and agencies that have received funding through the CARES Act, just as EDA did, and these can complement the projects and programs that our communities are putting together with EDA CARES Act funding. First among these is a data hub that has been developed by the U.S. Census Bureau called the COVID-19 Data Hub, which also includes pulse surveys for small business data and economic statistics, and a number of other pieces of demographic and economic data that can help our communities to plan their recovery strategies. The Minority Business Development Administration also received CARES Act funding to support their minority business development centers and chambers of commerce. The National Institutes of Science and Technology has likewise announced supplemental funding to expand the capacity of its manufacturing extension partnership centers, as well as an emergency assistant program that's available for selected Manufacturing USA institutes to support manufacturing communities. The NOAA has announced $300 million in CARES Act funding that is being available to support impacted communities to address their direct and indirect fishery-related losses. And given the importance of connectivity in the current environment, we wanted to highlight resources that are available through the NTIA Broadband USA Technical Assistance and recently updated FY20 Broadband Funding Database. Links are all provided here. Also making available web pages with information about CARES Act funding are agencies that make up the Economic Recovery Support Function primary partner agencies. This includes FEMA, which has a web page that identifies current disaster declarations and related resources. The Department of Labor has a web page that has resources for workers and employers, including job training, unemployment insurance, and workplace safety information. The Small Business Administration has a number of new loan programs, as well as resources to assist small businesses and entrepreneurs through business advising, contracting assistance, and access to capital to maintain and grow their operations during this time. The Treasury Department is also a partner, and their site provides IRS guidance for taxpayers, assistance to state and local governments available through the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and other assistance to preserve American jobs, industries, and communities, including in opportunity zones. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture has a number of programs also to support our rural areas with a range of economic development needs and business grants and loans for broadband assistance and other critical infrastructure. These are summarized in its new COVID-19 Federal Rural Resource Guide that is also linked here. These and more resources are available on the federal government's response page, which is www.usa.gov/coronavirus. And again, our Economic Development Integration Team is available to provide additional support at the contact information listed on the previous slide. Turning back to Economic Development Administration's CARES Act recovery resources, this slide once again reminds our viewers that the most up-to-date information on our CARES Act recovery assistance can always be found at eda.gov/coronavirus. There's additional information on EDA and its programs available at our main website at www.eda.gov. Our economic development representatives in the regional offices are also available to answer additional questions that you may have regarding the application process. You can find your economic development representative for your state or local area at eda.gov/contact.
I'm a small business owner. Can I apply for funding to assist my business?
No, for-profit organizations are not eligible for CARES Act recovery assistance.
I'm an entrepreneur trying to start a business. Can I apply for funding?
No, for-profit organizations and individuals as well are not eligible for EDA CARES Act recovery assistance. EDA also cannot provide capital for startup businesses.
I'm seeking funding for a project with national scope. Which regional office should I contact?
So for projects with national scope, those actually shouldn't go to a regional office. Instead, please contact EDA's Research and National Technical Assistance Program at rnta@eda.gov.
Are EDA's Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance, PWEA, and disaster funding opportunities still available?
Yes, EDA is still accepting applications for its PWEA programs. That includes assistance to coal communities and nuclear closure communities, and the FY18 and 19 disaster programs.
My organization's a nonprofit, but we're not a 501c3. Am I still eligible to apply?
That depends. EDA determines applicant eligibility on a case-by-case basis, but many types of nonprofits may be eligible. Please contact your EDR for assistance.
May I use funds from another federal grant to satisfy any matching share requirements?
Generally, no. Matching funds must come from non-federal sources, though there are a few exceptions like CDBG funds from HUD, but that is the exception, not the rule. Please talk to EDR if you have any questions about that.
Is there a maximum grant amount?
No, there are no minimum or maximum grant amounts. Historical average award amounts can be found in Section B1 of the fiscal year 2020 Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Notice of Funding Opportunity. Under the EDA's CARES Act Recovery Assistance Addendum to that NOFO, EDA expects on a case-by-case basis to receive applications that exceed those historical averages.
Will all the applications that EDA receives be funded?
No, EDA's CARES Act recovery assistance is a competitive process, and the funding is available is limited, and EDA anticipates that demand for that funding will outstrip the number of that the demand for the funding will be greater than the funding available.
How long will it take EDA to make a decision on my application?
EDA's goal is to make decisions within 60 days of receipt of a complete application. That's a goal, so it could conceivably take longer or ideally less time than that. But again, EDA's goal is to make a decision within 60 days of receipt. Thank you all for joining this webinar on a general overview of EDA's CARES Act assistance. As mentioned throughout this slide, if you need more assistance, please take a look at eda.gov/coronavirus or contact your local or your state's economic development representative at eda.gov/contact. Thank you.